Welcome to Subramani. These days, it's very easy for people to make mistakes and get away with it because you can go back and edit it, you can remove the video. But once upon a time, when you said something in print, it just stayed there, right? But luckily, it went away because nobody would preserve a newspaper 10 years old or 20 years old. So, very unlikely that it would be replayed to you. But today, people can replay your videos because somebody has already downloaded it and so I was all of 22 years of age. I was or 21 years of age, and I was doing my CA in a reasonable size, mid-size firm in Bombay called Sharp and Tannen, and I was getting a certificate signed by our partner, Mr. Vijay Shankar, and he looked very hard at it, and then he signed it, and he said, "I hope there are no mistakes, and you will not send me to jail." So it was an amusing thing too. So I smiled. He said, "Look, it's easy for you to smile, but I signed many documents, and you have to be very careful about not making mistakes." So I said, "No, I did this certificate. Here is the working, and I've got it checked by somebody else also, so that there are no mistakes." So he was reasonably happy with that, and he said, when I sign a certificate, I just make sure that the client's name is right, client's address is right, the spellings are right, my name is right, the firm's name is right, because those are the things which I can check very quickly, and these are what even the client checks, right? So but the working itself, I get somebody else to get it checked. If you have made it, I want a checker done. I said, both. I've been the maker, and Mr. X has been the guy who has checked it, and he's found it right. And so he said, here's a small story which you should hear. And he's also there was another partner who was also a lawyer. So he was training to be a consultant, a lawyer consultant, going to the courts and destroying witnesses of the other side. So they had got an expert, and who was an expert on some economic subject only, but they had called him as an expert. So he said he had given some report, and the lawyer from this partner's friend's side said, "Mr. S, you are the expert on this subject, so thank you for coming here," etc. And then he said, "Go to exhibit E or go to exhibit F and see this annexure, and what is a transistor?" So he said, "Oh, it's a typo, it's a transistor." Then the word fiber was spelled F-I-B-R-E and or F-I-B-E-R, and he said, "Oh, this is a mistake." So there were 3-4 mistakes that they could point out in a minute, and that the expert was getting exasperated. So this fellow said, "It is not about the mistakes that we can see that is worrying us in the report. It is the mistakes that you have made which we can't see and we are not capable of understanding. So if you are an expert in your field, why have these spelling mistakes happened? How do we trust the accuracy of your report?" Right? So this is a very important perception, that if you are an expert, you cannot make mistakes, because people don't understand your subject, but people understand their subject. So if I send out a report where I have spelled the client's name wrong, or if I put the address wrong or done some mistake like that, and the document has gone to and fro, it's not a very healthy thing for me to do, right? People feel, "Oh, you're such a big expert, you can't even get the spelling right, you can't get the address right, you can't get my name right, you got my phone number wrong," right? Many of these things. One is to do that and to say the client feels happy, see, I spotted out a mistake. One way to look at it. Then the client does not look at the report. The other way to look at it is the client looks at those mistakes and says, "Shit, these are the mistakes which he has made, which I understand. What about the mistakes which I don't understand?" Right? So the worry for most people is the mistakes which the expert makes, which they can't see. Right? Those which they can see is not a problem. Those which they can't see is the problem. So if I have done the audit of a company, my partner who is signing has to do the review of what I have done in about 3-4 hours. Very big company, maybe 2 days, but otherwise, yes, things have to be wrapped up very quickly. So he has to have a checklist. I have to make the checklist, give it to him. He'll run through the checklist and he has to make sure that I've done the job right and filled the checklist right. So it's a very difficult thing to do. So today, when there are so many channels, so many documents hitting you, and there is, I wouldn't use the word information overload, tons of information coming to you. You are getting different angles of the same thing. You are not just saying, you are not just hearing that the Prime Minister did this. You are getting the Prime Minister's view, maybe on Doordarshan, and there are 20 other YouTube channels which are telling you why the Prime Minister did it. It is for you to decide that which is noise, what is not noise. So same thing even in the investment area. So many people telling you what to do, and so many different approaches, not right or wrong, right? So a Charles Branson approach, a John Templeton approach, Warren Buffett approach, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala approach, Vallabh Bhansali approach, each one can be very different, right? You have to read all that. Some of it is cacophony, some of it is very good knowledge. You have to then distill it and be able to use it. So when a client reads something or he sees something with a spelling mistake, he's not going to be very impressed. I know one case which I read about, somebody who had some big consultant, one of the big four, making a presentation to their client. Started by the first slide said in this dairy industry, right? They were talking about the dairy industry and it was spelled diary, D-I-A-R-Y. I believe the presentation stopped then and said, thank you, we will look for other consultants. It can be as dangerous as that, or somebody saying, oh, it's just a typo. It's just a typo, doesn't work anymore. You have to reread it and then you put it out, right? You have got to be careful about everything that you do, because if you don't, then your competition will. Thank you.